I like to identify as an artist. That label brings me joy. Many labels don't, but that's not for this video. Being called an artist, though, isn't always something that has brought me joy. And I know for some other people, it probably doesn't bring them joy either. And that's because there are a lot of negative connotations that come with the label of being an artist. Now you might think, well, if you're talented, then what's so negative about being called an artist? And to you, I say, that is a really good point. That point is basically why I'm able to view myself more kindly now than I used to. And that mindset is one that helped me actually fall back in love with art. But before all that happened, I was not so in love with art. And as much as I wanted to believe being an artist was cool, deep down I did not believe being an artist was cool. That was because growing up, I had always been artistically inclined, I would say. I was raised with a lot of crafts and arts things. My family was very supportive of my desire to draw and paint, and I went through this really big origami phase. I loved art. And I think if it weren't for the negative connotations that come with the label of artist, I would have grown up and, step back. I'm only like 22 years old. Not even. So saying growing up, it's kind of funny because I'm like, technically my brain isn't fully developed yet. But, gosh, we're like forced to decide the path of our life at around 17. If there had been no negative connotations to being an artist, I genuinely think I would have chosen this as a career path. I remember when I was 17, 18-ish, applying to colleges, I got a bunch of advertisements. My name got on a list somehow. I got a bunch of advertisements for this art institute, and they wanted me, I want to say that they wanted me, but really they were just advertising. I don't think they knew who I was specifically. But they were offering classes in Italy, and I was like, oh my gosh, that would be such a dream to study fine arts in Italy. And art is my passion. But I didn't pursue that because I knew that college was something that was an investment, and I should be going to college and getting a degree in something that will pay itself off and more. And I didn't see art as paying. And that's where the negative connotations come in. Sure, I had been aware of them prior to making that decision to not even try to apply to an art institute, but I think that was somewhat of a pivotal moment in my own life, and that's really when I started to dislike art more. At the age of 18, at least in my experience, I felt very pressured to start to pursue something that was lucrative or that was meaningful in some way. At that point in my life, I really felt that art was not lucrative and was not meaningful. Looking back on that actually makes me kind of sad to think about. I've grown so much really in the past half year. Starting this channel has made me feel so more positively about creating art and sharing my art and actually spending time on making art, because before I had started this, I didn't think that it was worth it anymore. I thought, this is some useless talent that I have. It's not going to bring me barely any money. It's not worth doing. It's not worth spending my time on, because all these negative connotations leading up to that kind of somewhat pivotal moment in my life at 18, where I was deciding my future, those made me believe that art wasn't worth it. When I say the negative connotations of being called an artist, those are that artists charge too much for what it's worth, and yet they never make any money. They're starving. That's the coined phrase, starving artist, because it's such a pointless and useless career that an artist can't even pay for their own food. And sure, you can laugh it off and you can think of some artists who are doing really well right now, but I had been hearing that phrase, I don't even remember the first time I heard it. It feels like something that's existed in my life, like the entirety of my life. And although I know the people who said that phrase to me had no ill intentions or didn't mean to be negative, the truth is it really turned me off from pursuing art in my life, and almost nearly erased art from my life, I think. I think if some things had gone differently, maybe in some other universe, there's a version of me who gave up on art entirely. I try not to be consumed by the payout of things, or how much money a job makes, or how much money is necessary for life, but it's hard to see past when you're thinking about a single career for the rest of your life and you're supposed to live independently off of it. So when I think of the term starving artist, not only do I think of someone who makes so little that they can't nourish their body, I think of someone who is dependent on other people who aren't artists, and that makes me really sad. I really enjoy being independent, and I love working solo. And this is a me thing. This definitely does not apply to everyone. The thought of having to rely significantly on someone else because something that I chose for myself wasn't good enough, that makes me feel like I'm unintelligent and I make poor choices and I'm not mature and I am irresponsible. And those are the connotations that are in my mind, or when I used to think of being an artist. Although these are things that exist, and although I'm not pursuing a career in art, I've found a way to appreciate making art and calling myself an artist without the pressure of relying on it. And I don't know if I will ever make money from my art, but I'm happy that I don't have to rely on it, which is a little bit sad. I like to think that, again, somewhere in some other universe, there's a version of me out there who made art her entire career, and every day she makes art for clients and she can live off of it, or maybe she's even doing really well. Let's switch gears, because talking about the negative connotations of art kind of just whipped me back into my 18, 19-year-old self who actively fell out of love with art, and that was a little bit saddening. So now I want to talk about why I find joy in calling myself an artist. Being an artist is such a broad term. There are so many things that can be considered an art, more than what I'm doing in this video, or more than artistic media like painting and drawing or digital art. Art is also making music, art is writing poetry, art is writing books, art is seeing a beautiful moment out in nature, art is photography, art is the sound when you laugh with your friends. Art encompasses everything, and I think labeling myself an artist is accepting that I am a consumer of this art. I consume, I let into myself all the beautiful things in life. I let into myself and accept that I am creative and that I can create, and I willingly create, and I willingly see the beauty in other things. So I don't want to dwell on the thought of money driving art or success driving art, because that makes art, it doesn't give it justice. Art is the beauty in the world. And when I call myself an artist, I'm proclaiming that I see and I recognize beauty, and I create and I add to the beauty. To me, that's the most wonderful thing. And to me, that brings myself so much joy. And I am so sorry to my 18 and 19-year-old self who did not think of art that way. Maybe you're listening to this and maybe you don't see art in that way. Maybe you used to love art as a child and then you gave up on it. And that's another reason I always say to practice, because in the end, it doesn't matter if you perceive your art as good or bad. What's important is that you're creating and you're adding to the world. And that's really the most artistic and beautiful thing you can do. The value at which other people hold your artistic expressions up to, whether monetarily or whether in their opinion, it holds no ground when you see your creations as something worth giving to the world, and when you see your creations as a product of being an artistic and wonderful human being. When I say practice, it isn't so that you get better in a way that makes you money. When I say practice, it's so that you create and you add and you enjoy the process of being an artist, and you enjoy the experience that you will only get to have a couple times in your life. You're here now and you're in this one chance. And if you don't take that chance to be an artist, I mean, that's my worldview. I couldn't do it myself. If you enjoy not being an artist, good for you. Please comment why you were on my page, because it is an art page, and so that would be very interesting to me. There are negative connotations to being an artist. I try to reject them every day, and being an artist is so much more than the money it will ever make me. It is so much more than other people's opinion of how I perform in my art. And I hope that if this is something that you struggle with too, that day by day you can grow to see yourself more kindly and accept the label as artist for yourself. Hey, real artists, subscribe.